All right, David, what are we up to?
We're going to be fishing shrimp and eggs here in Oregon City, diver and bait and back bouncing. And we'll see what happens. Water's cooled down and came up from this weather, the weather we've had this week. And we're going to see how it is. They've been doing good in the lower river and hoping some fish have moved up here to Oregon City.
Sounds good to me. All right, Brent, what are you thinking so far? You're new to this whole
I'm new.
area?
First time fishing the Willamette. I write the guide spotlight column for STS, and I'm honored to be able to fish with everybody here today, and hopefully we'll catch some spring Chinook here in Oregon City.
Got anything to say, Chad?
You know, it's mid-April. It's Oregon City. This should be go time. And high confidence with Dave here running the boat. We've got the all-star team, so we'll see what happens.
So David's meticulous about rigging up his rods. He's been setting everything up here, and he's getting close. Looks like we're going to try a few different things.
Yeah. So what we got here is a jumbo jet diver on a dropper that's rigged on a slider. And then we have a short piece of leader and a couple of large corkies for flotation. And then we're going to go shrimp and eggs in a spin glow. And we're going to run these out there between 60 and 90 feet, depending on how deep the water is. Put them in the rod holder and wait for the fish to come and eat it. And then we're going to wait and let that fish just take it until it's just folded over. Then we're going to pick up the rod and set the hook.
Okay, so yeah, how are you covering the water, and how's your spread set up?
These are 982s in the back here, G-Loomis 982s, and they're just an 8'2" rod and kind of go right off the corner. Actually, since nobody's behind him, I've got it out a little bit, but usually I have it like this rod, so just slightly off, off the corner, then straight back, and then the front, I'll run those 90 degrees out so I can get a nice big long spread. We're using 25-pound tuna blue Maxima and using Dakota line counters, and those have revolutionized. They've been around about 20 years or so. And back in the day, you used to look at your level wind on your reel and count how many times it went back and forth, and you tell the people, go out 10 passes, and they'd go back and that kind of thing. But it was never ended up not being exact because guys would lose count or this or that. But with that line counter, you could say, I want it out 65 feet, 70 feet, whatever it is, and everybody's fishing the same. It's really important to have everything set up, the same rods, the same line, same distance, all that kind of thing, and have a whole system all together. Chad's back bouncing here, and so that's got a little bit of a stiffer rod, and using braid. And now with the divers, I like monofilament because I like that stretch, because we'll let them fish just eat it, and they'll just keep pulling and not even feel the rod. Now with the back bouncing, I'll use braid so you can feel that lead on every tap and every stroke. And I'll fish it in free spool, so when they start getting bit, I can let them start to take some line out and not feel the rod. Versus with the other rods with mono, you can just let them be and just let the fish pull against it.
How long have you fished 982s? 30 years?
As long as they've been out, probably.
Yeah. And it's one of the original plug rods that's out there, and it's still perfectly designed for this.
Yeah, that tip is so good. Lets me read what's going on and lets that fish bite just the lightest bite and see it pick it up.
Yeah.
And it just lets them eat that.
Yeah.
And recently, I wouldn't say recently, probably 10, 12 years ago, seems recently, I switched over to running these 10.5 footers.
On the 1265.
The 1265 on my bow rods.
Sure.
And it used to be we'd get most of the fish in the back of the boat.
Right.
Because these back rods are first to the fish. When I went to the 1265s and getting that extra spread out the side, all of a sudden those rods started catching a lot more fish because they were getting to fish that didn't see these baits on the back of the boat. Yeah, and then just the action of those rods too, just lets them load up and just swallow that bait. So good. Yeah.
And you use these in other fisheries too, right?
They are one of the most versatile rods. I use them in my pro troll fishing. I use them just for my herring fishing. I use them for my diver bait fishing.
This is what I use up at Puget Sound too on downriggers for Coho and Chinook.
Really?
Yeah, 1265s with Shimano Dakotas.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
So, David, how long have you been fishing out here? How many years have you been doing this?
I think this is 37 years.
37 years. That is truly
A
amazing.
lot of waters run under that bridge, right?
Yeah.
So this is right here where we're at. This is where I caught my first springer, and I was about 15, and we were anchored up in the rain. It was nasty. We were in a hog line and kind of out in the middle a little bit here, but there were guys back bouncing on this inside slot, and we tried back bouncing before. We've never had any success doing it, but I was like, Dad, those guys are back bouncing. Let's go give that a try, even though it was a lot nicer to sit underneath that top. And we went out and started back bouncing prawns, and man, started getting bit, and it was so awesome. Caught my first springer, and then the next few passes, my dad hooked up, and he busted this rod, broke, and we pulled that fish in by hand. It was a summer steelhead, and but that was, so that would have been like 35 years ago, you know. It took us a couple years. I would say the first year, you know, we really didn't know what we were doing. Then the next year, you know, we started to pick up more stuff, and I'm sure my dad probably caught some maybe in that second year. I don't quite remember. I totally remember my first one though. But we fished here all the time. We fished every weekend from March through, you know, through May, and then we'd fish evenings. I would get home from school, get the boat ready and all the gear and the bait and the prawns and everything ready to go, and Dad would get home from work about 3:30. We'd hook up, grab McDonald's on the way, get down here, and we'd fish till 8, 9 o'clock every evening. We'd do that 3 or 4 nights a week. Needless to say, I'd rather fish than do the homework, so here I am, a fishing guide.
And you also bank fished the Clackamas a lot.
We
in your
did.
Younger years too, right?
We did, yeah. You know, winter steelhead all the time, summer steelhead on the upper Clackamas, and you know, of course, then it was all out when I got my driver's license.
So, Chad, what are you doing? You're back bouncing, it looks like.
Yep. I've got some eggs and shrimp on here, and I'm back bouncing, which is a little bit different than the diver, a little more active, but it gives it a slightly different presentation too. So what I've done, or what Dave's done, is figured out, you know, a weight that's going to kind of match up with the distance that we're going to walk the bait back, and it's going to be somewhat in line with what we've got in the other part of our spread. And it's going to stay in constant contact with the bottom, and as I lift the rod tip, I can feel that lead come back down, and then I'm letting line out and walking it back and bringing line in as we speed up and slow down through the troll here. And you know, just using a standard level line. This is a Calcutta 400, which is sort of a mainstay for a salmon angler in the Northwest. If he's going to fish floats, or you're going to back bounce with, you can't go wrong on like an 8-foot rod that's got a fairly stiff action to it. And the reason for that is angler fatigue. You know, it's 3 ounces, but you're picking it up and putting it down about 100,000 times a day. So we need a rod that's stiff enough that we can move the weight and pick it up for boulders. You know, there's trees, there's stumps, all kinds of things I got to go over. But at the same time, has a soft enough tip to it that I can, the fish will give. And you know, when the fish bites this, I'm going to feed it. I'm not going to set the hook. I'm just going to let the thing just take it. So that's sort of the technique. Hopefully we get a bite here.
Yeah, what's the bite feel like?
It's kind of a tug, or it'll start out, you know, it depends. A lot of these fish in this cold water, what I find, it almost feels like a trout bite. Just nip, and then it'll go slow, and then just build and build and build as they kind of get to that side, and they start pulling, and eventually they're going to turn. And that'll be when I go ahead and turn the handle over, but I won't be setting the hook with braid. I mean, there's no stretch in the system, so you just got to let them go. Feed it to them.
My wife said she was going to mix my ashes with egg cure and cure up eggs with them.
Makes sense.
Probably catch fish on you, man.
One
You're so
time.
fishy.
If I could just get that cure again.
Yeah. One time we were, I had a guy, he's like, we were fishing at Halem,
Yeah.
and the guy gets in the boat, we're fishing, he's like, hey Dave, I got a question for you. And I'm sure, he goes, I brought my son out here. I wanted to know if I could drop him off. And he had a bag, and he had the urn, and it was in like a cloth bag or whatever. And I'm like, okay. He goes, how about now? I'm like, somebody's gonna snag that. Let's go out to the ocean. And the guy just like, he didn't say nothing. He just like dropped over the side. It's like, all right, let's go back to fishing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's those kind of places that make sense.
Yeah.
I guess you're doing. I guess then they hail them men a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. He just wanted to bury the. The guy's never fished with me before or since.
So I've heard about the Clackamas being a great fisher once upon a time. What was that like, and what happened? Why is it gone there?
It was like steelhead. I want to say, what do you think, Nick? At the top 5 in the state for winter steelhead.
Some years.
The summer steelhead run was sometimes up to 12,000 summer steelhead. Now it's like 2.
The big thing was accessibility. Everyone could get to it. You could bank fish. You got above the North Fork Dam in that upper stretch above Estacada, and you could bank fish. So
50
everybody
miles.
could go. You could get off work, you could drive up there, and you could fish till 9 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock in the evening because it's summertime, and it was great fishing. And then there was a robust springer fishery that had fish coming in March. There was decent springer fishing in April, great fishing in May, all the way through. There was great steelhead fishing.
Hatchery production was better than it is today, I'm guessing.
I don't know. They say they release the same amount of springers. They certainly have dropped off on the steelhead plants.
Yeah, no question in that. I mean, certain things are been a success on the Clackamas.
Yeah.
Broodstock has been good. Steelhead fishing in this winter was good on the Clackamas.
Yeah.
It really was.
But when it was really good, when they first did the broodstocks, and it was really, really good, it was like they do at the coast where it was native and native crossed. Yeah. And now after this is what I understand. After the lawsuits, they're not allowed to use as many native fish, so they're crossing them with the hatchery fish that are coming back, and it's not producing as good.
Yeah.
Are the hatchery fish, are they Clackamas strain, or did they come from another river system somewhere once upon a time?
Back in the day, there were Skamanias, weren't they?
Well, the summer runs are Skamanias.
Yeah.
Then they have the broodstock, which are fish that they've gotten from the fish ladder, which are a wild. Really jacked up.
I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think some of the best strategies are for these Willamette River springers?
Some of it's moving. I like to move slow. They're not necessarily, they're kind of lethargic when the water's in the 40s. So I will move slow and deliberate. And I also think that boat handling, makes a big difference. When you're back trolling, staying in a nice steady line. That way the scent is going off of your bait and the fish can swim right up to it. If you're doing crazy 8s and back and forth a lot, you can visualize that your bait's doing this back and forth behind the boat, and the scent trail is kind of snaking around and that kind of thing. And it's harder for the fish to, find your bait, especially in the dirty old Willamette. I remember way back in the 90s when I worked at a fish hatchery up in Alaska, and I was able to feed clumps of eggs to fish. I'd cure up eggs and try different egg cures and stuff like that. And we had like 500 Chinook swimming around in our lagoon. And I'd throw a chunk of eggs out there in the water, and as the eggs sunk, you could have that trail. You could see that trail of milk coming off of them, and there'd be salmon just meandering around, and you could see them cross paths of that scent trail, and they were like bloodhounds. They like 90-degree turns, swim right up that scent trail of that milk coming off that clump of eggs and just start eating them. And you can see all the milk and egg juice coming out of their gills as they were chomping on them. So that was really cool to see, and to see how much that they will key in on that scent trail.
So another thing too that seems pretty critical is having good bait. I noticed you've got some really fresh sand shrimp today that we're using, and a selection of different eggs done in different cures that you've learned about over the years.
Yeah.
So is there some sort of, and you're changing baits on a regular basis?
Right.
After a pass, you put in a new chunk.
Right. Yeah. Keeping a good, like, that scent trail, rebaiting and keeping fresh eggs on there, and keep trying different scents and keep trying different cures. Sometimes, a lot of times, everybody thinks of the secret cure. Maybe it's not quite a secret cure, but it might be a different cure than what the fish are smelling from the other boats too. So that's kind of, one of the reasons of keeping a tight lip on what you cure your eggs with, because you don't want everybody in the river using the same cure. You want something different that stands out.
So Dave, there's this belief that when you're springer fishing on the Columbian or the Willamette, that you need to put in 100 hours of fishing time on average to catch a spring Chinook. So, for the people out there who are weekend fishermen and they have to put in 100 hours, that's a lot of hours. Is that true or is it not true? What changes that number other than luck?
Timing and when you go, and not going too early in the year, that will help out a lot. Being in the right place at the right time, and knowing what the tide's doing, being in the right place for that tide change, and a lot of that hours, it's an average. So a lot of people are out, they're putting in 100 hours because they're sitting on a hog line and fishing in the same spot all day long, and they're not moving around and trying different spots. You can
either wait for fish or you can look for fish.
Or look for fish. You can see how what we did today. We fished like 4 or 5 different spots, and I only fished it one time, and then I moved to the other side of the river and fished that spot, and then moved down and just kind of bounced around, trying to get it, trying to find where the fish are.
Okay, what's going on?
Lucky Brent's got a spring Chinook on.
Right on. We've been chatting away here, and weather's getting nicer. It's warmed up. It was really cold this morning.
I hope this one's missing a fin.
When you can, Chad, will you put that rod up in the front?
Oh, you want that up there too?
Yeah, just put everything up there. Clear the...
So, David, what's happening?
Well, we're going to take a look at this fish here. For me, I do want you to stay next to the edge.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Look at this.
Oh, boy, this is a big deal. Spring Chinook. Spring Chinook, Willamette River.
How many feet is? Slow and steady.
Baby.
Oh boy. Oh boy. There we go. There we go.
Happy man. First Willamette Chinook.
That is awesome.
Wild or hat?
Awesome.
Keeper.
Keeper.
Oh,
Purple
yes.
back, big
Look at
spots. Nice
Look at
long
that.
fish. Well done.
I worked
sir.
hard for that one.
Oh, this is the perfect spot right here.
What a great fish, man. First springer, Columbia River springer.
Willamette River Springer.
Willamette
Yeah,
River.
well,
I want you to bend the fish this way more.
Sorry.
So bend. There you go. Yeah, bend the body.
Got it?
Yep.
and there is the beautiful springer we caught today.
Man, oh man.
Nothing nicer than the first springer of the year. Beautiful meat.